A real crime. In a series of podcasts, I want you to travel down some lonely roads with me. These are the roads I traveled with families who never got to say goodbye to loved ones. These family members were fated to live the rest of their lives waiting and wondering. I will begin this series with unsolved murders, but I will also revisit cases that include arrests because aspects of the case are worth re-examining. I wrote these stories when I worked as a reporter for the Charleston Gazette. Thanks for listening today. A few weeks ago, some of you were brave enough to listen to my episodes on child abuse. Members of my own family told me they found it too disturbing to listen to the episode I entitled A Black Hole. I understand completely, but I believe we as a society need to be aware of what can happen to helpless children. In the wake of what could be an historic turn in our national history, I want to share one more case that I believe is telling. Episode 23, From the Beginning. One neighbor recognized immediately that a young Oak Hill couple did not treat their baby well. As soon as she saw the young family approach her home, she threw a blanket in the clothes dryer. She would wrap the infant, who was only a few weeks old, in the warm blanket and hold it. In time, the neighbor would testify that the newborn was always cold as ice. When I think back on this case, those few moments of warmth and kindness were the only ones the child ever had in his brief, tortured life. The child's father, Frederick Lee Epperly, insisted his son sleep alone in a cold room. The parents moved their mattress into a warm room. When the baby was 38 days old, he went into full cardiac arrest. Rushed to the hospital, doctors revived the child, but the baby's temperature had dropped dramatically and he suffered hypothermia. The baby was left blind and deaf. His brain was forever damaged. After Frederick and his wife, Michelle Epperly, were indicted for malicious wounding and child cruelty, the day-to-day realities of the Epperly household became part of many court hearings. A social worker testified she received an allegation of abuse and went to the Epperly home in Oak Hill, West Virginia to investigate. The baby was only a few weeks old at the time she visited. The social worker said the complaints she received alleged that the newborn was limited to 3 diapers a day and his formula was limited. The newborn had abrasions on his nose and knees and slept in a cold room. The social worker believed the young couple lacked money and experience. She returned the next day with 12 cans of formula. While she was there, the social worker said the father told her, "I catch her," the baby's mother, in the kitchen making formula sometimes. A few weeks later, the baby's brain was irreversibly damaged. A tube was placed in his stomach for food, a tube in his nose for breathing. Once the parents entered the court system, they explained they had no money to pay for lawyers. They were required to list all of their income. They received monthly welfare benefits and noted that they had $5 in cash on hand. There were several delays in this case. The weight of the indictments was more than the frail marriage could bear. Both parents sought other partners. Authorities brought the mother, who was 20, to trial first. I always noticed that she raced out of the courtroom at each break. She was desperate to fill her lungs with cigarette smoke. If she did not have a cigarette, she made motions to others nearby that dramatized her great need for nicotine. Rotten me, I would think as I watched her, your child was desperate for food and warmth. Did you not understand your baby's cravings? After jurors found the mother guilty, the father entered a plea to unlawful wounding the very next day. He never admitted what he did, but he told the judge he did not want to risk being found guilty on the original 2-count indictment. The baby was taken to several hospitals. The combined price tags for care reached 6 figures. In a foster home near Morgantown, taxpayers were charged $8,500 per month for his daily specialized care. The child could only breathe through a trachea tube that had to be suctioned every 3 to 5 minutes, 24 hours a day. The child could not swallow. Before she could be sentenced for what she did to her firstborn, the judge in this case was informed that Michelle was in a relationship with another man, living in another state, and pregnant. The assistant Fayette County prosecutor in the case told the judge he did not want to see the same abuse suffered by another child, just in a different place. He told the judge he hoped the responsibilities of motherhood could be addressed in her sentencing. Now, we might hope that she was so horrified by what happened to her first child, she took a vow to become the world's best mother. Throughout the case, her lawyer argued that Michelle was a victim of her husband's demands. Michelle maintained she wanted to give her child better care, but her husband would not let her. Did she enter into a new relationship with a truly intelligent man who would only want the best for her and his child? I do not know. When Michelle spoke to her probation officer, she told him that after she realized she was pregnant, she and her husband discussed getting an abortion. She told the officer that she wanted the child, and she thought a baby would be good for them as a couple. At her sentencing hearing, the judge told her, "A baby is not supposed to save a marriage." The judge also said the child didn't have much of a chance from the start. Michelle's lawyer argued that Epperly was jealous of his wife's attention to their infant. From the bench, a Fayette County Circuit judge told the child's father reports indicated that the father demanded his wife attend to his needs first, even before the needs of the child. The judge concluded the young father had an almost obscene jealousy of his baby. Frederick Lee Epperly, who was 22 when he entered his plea, also began a relationship. He impregnated the new woman in his life. Both mother and father were expecting new babies, while their first child lived only with extensive support from people paid to care for him. The parents were never allowed to care for their child on their own after the baby went into cardiac arrest at age 38 days. Instead of debating right to life, this baby became the subject of a right to die hearing. A lawyer appointed to represent the baby told the judge the child should be awarded the gift of death with dignity when his heart stopped. In support of that motion, the Morgantown doctor who was treating the child asked a judge to give the child no code status. That would mean the child would not be connected to a ventilator to keep him breathing, would not be given medicine to revive his heartbeat, and would not be resuscitated. To support his request, Dr. Norman Cottrell said that the child could not roll over or sit up. He could not cry. Cottrell said something that has always stayed with me. He said the child does respond to painful stimuli, such as the start of an IV tube. The doctor said that through the miracles of science, the child could be made to live forever. No one argued to stop giving the child care. The argument centered on not extending life support once the child's heart stopped beating naturally. A lawyer appointed to represent the baby testified she'd seen a brain scan for the child. His brain was continuing to shrink, and his brain could perform only the most fundamental task, like telling the heart to beat. I have always thought some people believe that if a child is born, both parents will be magically transformed. They will immediately realize what a gift this child is and always make good decisions about the baby's care and education. But as this case illustrates, neither husband or wife had the ability, the finances, or a genuine interest in raising a baby. Their youth might excuse some of their actions, but certainly not all. Here we had a lawfully wedded couple, but they discussed aborting their baby after the wife realized she was pregnant. We also had a firstborn son. I read an interesting study that found fathers often decide to work harder after they have sons. In this case, the father seemed to work hard to eliminate his perceived rival. As I've seen in too many cases, it is stunning what some parents can do to their children. I understand and respect both sides of the abortion debate. but it is not a simple matter of saying yes or no to this procedure. All of life is complicated, and modern life becomes more complicated by the minute as technology advances. As I write this, I do not know if the draft opinion Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito wrote will become a final decision. Of course, all of us know the word abortion is not in the Constitution. Our country was founded by men who had a keen interest in science and believed science would bring many advantages to life. The word airplane is not in the Constitution either, but our founders dreamed of flying. I hope everyone understands that the Roe v. Wade decision is based on the idea we have a right to privacy. Those who think they want to overturn this decision might regret what they wished for. Thanks as always for listening. Please join me next Wednesday for a new episode of A Real Crime by Susan Williams.